The Mystery of Our Lady of Fatima. The visions of the Night Virgin seen by 3 Portuguese peasant children and the 3 secrets entrusted to them. On the 13th of July 1917, 3 children were startled to find a mysterious figure approaching them as they tended their flock of sheep in pasture land near Fatima in Portugal. Lucia dos Santos and her 2 cousins, Jacinta and Francisco Mato, reported seeing what they described as a pretty lady from heaven. Lucia said that the lady was brighter than the sun, shedding rays of light clearer and stronger than a crystal glass filled with the most sparkling water and pierced by the burning rays of the sun. Which is just the sort of description you'd expect from a illiterate 10-year-old shepherd girl. Lucia also claimed the lady had entrusted her with 3 important secrets which she would not reveal until many, many years later. Instead of being cuffed around the ear and sent on their way, the 3 scallywags were firmly believed, and devout Catholics soon identified this mysterious visitor as the Blessed Virgin Mary herself. Word of the vision rapidly spread, and thousands began making the pilgrimage to the Cova de Iria, the area of pasture land near Fatima in which the children had grazed their sheep, hoping to see for themselves the Mother of Jesus. Arthur de Oliveira Santos, the mayor of the village Nova, and the most powerful man in the region, became increasingly anxious about the political implications of the pilgrimage to Fatima. Reports of new miracles were only swelling the number of pilgrims. His open hostility to the alleged apparitions was well known, and he ordered the arrest of the children. On 13th of August, the children were rounded up and thrown into jail. Other prisoners later testified the youngsters were initially frightened and very upset, but were soon chanting their rosaries and leading their cellmates in prayer. When Santos interrogated the children, they wouldn't tell him anything. So, as the story goes, he arranged for a large pot of boiling oil to be delivered to the interrogation room. He then took the children one by one into the room, claiming that each of the others had been boiled to death in oil for failing to tell him the truth. The remaining child was urged to come clean or suffer the same fate. Remarkably, despite such persuasive techniques, this psychopath still failed to persuade the youngsters to tell him anything at all. With that, Santos was forced to release them. 6 days later, on 19th of August, they reported another visitation. On 13th of September, the Blessed Virgin appeared in the field again, and this time the children reported that she had promised them at noon on the 13th of October she would reappear and perform a miracle so that everybody would believe. As dawn broke on 13th of October, a thick layer of cloud hung over the entire area and heavy rain fell, soaking the thousands who had gathered to see the expected miracle. Many were present only to witness what they were sure would be a non-event. The tension mounted as crowds of between 70 and 100,000 people gathered during the morning. People from every walk of life were there, including doctors, lawyers, scientists, who are normally not inclined to be credulous. Religious leaders and the great and the good all eagerly awaited this great event. Noon passed without incident, but in the middle of the afternoon tens of thousands of people witnessed a cloud gradually part to reveal a dim, opaque sun, spinning on its axis and emitting various bright colours that illuminated everything around. After a short while the sun began to apparently detach itself from the sky and plummet towards Earth. But instead of crashing into the ground and wiping out the entire human race, it slowed down at the last moment and only came close enough to heat the land and dry out everybody's soaking wet clothing before slowly making its way back to its regular place in the sky. The event, which lasted between 8 and 10 minutes and in which the sun appeared to sink and rise again 3 times, became known as the Miracle of the Sun. Previously a strongly Catholic country, Portugal at the time had been a secular state for only 7 years, since the monarchy had been abolished during the Republican Revolution of 1910. Since then, the new government of Portugal had been severely hostile towards religious groups, explaining the mayor's unpleasantness to the devout children. However, even the pro-government O Século, Portugal's most influential newspaper, was unable to repress its excitement on this occasion. Popular columnist Avelino de Almeida noted the following: "In the astonished eyes of these people, whose attitude takes us back to biblical times and who are white-faced with shock, and with their heads uncovered facing the blue sky, the sun has trembled, the sun has made sudden movements that were outside all cosmic laws. The sun has danced, according to the typical expression of the country people. Covered with dust on the running board of the bus from Torres Novas, an old man recites the creed from beginning to end. I ask, who is it? And they tell me it is Joe Maria Armando de Milo. I see him later, talking to those around him who still have their hats on, begging them strongly to take them off in the presence of such an extraordinary demonstration of the existence of God. Identical scenes are repeated in other places, and a woman shouts, bathed in tears and almost suffocated, "What a shame! There are still men who don't take off their hats in the presence of such a miracle." And next they ask each other if they have seen it or not. Most confess that they have seen the dancing of the sun, but others, however, declare they have seen the smiling face of the Virgin herself. They swear that the sun span around itself like a ring of fireworks, and that it came down almost to the point of burning the earth with its rays. Some say they saw it change colour. It was about 3 in the afternoon. De Almeida claimed to have witnessed the whole event, but the photographer standing next to him, Judah Rohr, who was nephew of the famous snapper Joshua Benoli, said he saw nothing at all. When asked why, he replied, "Because nothing strange happened to the sun. But when I saw all those people kneeling, I understood something to be happening, and so I photographed them instead." Another journalist from the Lisbon newspaper O Dia reported how the silver sun, enveloped in the same gauzy grey light, was seen to whirl and turn in the circle of broken clouds. The light turned a beautiful blue, as if it had come through the stained glass windows of a cathedral, and spread itself all over the people who knelt with outstretched hands. People wept and prayed with uncovered heads in the presence of the miracle they had awaited. The seconds seemed like hours, so vivid were they. An eminent eye surgeon, Dr. Domingos Pinto Coelho, recorded how the sun in one moment was surrounded with scarlet flame, and at another in yellow and deep purple. It seemed to be in an exceedingly fast and whirling movement, and at times appeared to be loosened from the sky, and to be approaching the earth and strongly radiating heat. Another medical man, Dr. Almeida Garrett, wrote how the sun, whirling wildly, seemed to loosen itself from the firmament and advance threateningly upon the earth, as if to crush us with its huge and fiery weight. The sensation was terrible. And another learned individual, Dr. Formaggio, noted that suddenly the rain stopped, the clouds were wrenched apart, and the sun appeared in all its splendour. Then it began to revolve on its axis like the most magnificent fire-wheel that we can imagine, taking all the colours of the rainbow and sending forth multicoloured flashes of light, producing the most astounding effect. With an estimated 100,000 people present, the weight of witness evidence is overwhelming. This, coupled with the children's apparent ability to predict the event to within a few hours, proved to many people that they had truly experienced a miracle. Even so, careful examination of individual statements reveals many contradictions. In some, the sun looks like a ball of snow, and in others an opaque disk. Some reports note the sun was dancing, and in others it was zigzagging. Some witnesses believe it actually touched the earth's surface, although many failed to see it move at all. There have been statements claiming columns of fine blue smoke, and others describing how the very air seemed to change colour. Everybody claims to have witnessed the miracle at the same time, and simultaneously let out either a roar or a loud gasp that echoed around the valley. But the timing of the reports vary from between midday and dusk. There's something like a 6-hour variation between these witness statements. The only connecting theme is that most people saw something happen at around the same time and on the same afternoon. But scientific records contain no reports from anywhere in the world of unusual astronomical or solar activity. This is strange because even if there had been a natural reason for the phenomenon, such as a cloud of dust from the Sahara Desert or unseen atmospheric gases as has been suggested, then astronomers would have recorded those. And that is exactly what happened when stratospheric dust made the sun appear to be blue and red to the people of China in 1983, or the blue moon reported for 2 years after the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883. It is hard to believe that so many well-educated and rational people could either make up their story or be fooled by what might account to be a vast contrick. But for those who claim some sort of collective hallucination at Fatima, Then there is evidence of witness reports from as far away as 30 miles from people going about their normal business who weren't expecting to see a miracle or even claiming they had. Many years later, in 1931, Lucia claimed Jesus himself had visited her in Galicia to teach her 2 new prayers, and, she said, he had given her a message for the Pope. Soon afterwards, the Catholic Church added its considerable weight to the debate by announcing that they were approving the visions as worthy of belief. So they actually believed all this, or at least publicly pretended to. So with the official stamp of approval from the man wearing the dress in Rome, the Blessed Virgin, as she appeared at Cova de Iria, became known throughout the world as Our Lady of Fatima. By then, little Lucia de Jesus Rosa Santos had become Sister Lucia of Jesus, following her ordination as a Carmelite nun. In 1942, as the Second World War was at its bloodiest, Sister Lucia finally decided to reveal the first of the secrets confided in her by the Virgin Mary all those years ago. The first was a terrifying vision of hell, which she recorded in her 3rd memoir published towards the end of that year. She wrote, "Our Lady showed us a great sea of fire which seemed to be beneath the earth. Plunged in this fire were demons and souls in human form, like transparent burning embers, all blackened or burnished bronze, floating about in the conflagration, now raised into the air by the flames that issued from within themselves, together with great clouds of smoke, now falling back on every side like sparks in a huge fire, without weight or equilibrium. And all the time the shrieks and the groans of pain and despair which horrified us and made us tremble with fear. The demons could be distinguished by their terrifying and repulsive likeness to frightful unknown animals, all black and transparent. Fortunately," as she goes on, "this vision lasted but an instant. How can we ever be grateful enough to our kind Heavenly Mother who had already prepared us by promising, during the first apparition, to take us to heaven? Otherwise I think we would have died in fear and terror." The second secret included Mary's instructions on how to save souls from hell and convert the world to Christianity. "You have seen hell where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved and there will be peace in the world. The war is going to end, but if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pius XI. When you see a night illuminated by an unknown light, know that this is a great sign given to you by God that he is about to punish the world for its crimes by means of war, famine, and persecutions of the Church and of the Holy Father. To prevent this, I shall come and ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart and the communion of reparation on the first Saturdays. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world, causing wars and persecution of the Church. The good will be martyred, the Holy Father will have much to suffer, and various nations will be annihilated. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. The Holy Father will consecrate Russia to me, and she will be converted, and a period of peace will be guaranteed to the world." Now, if you find the timing and content of this revelation suspicious, what with it coming in the middle of the worst war and during Pope Pius's reign, even if it was Pius XII and not 11 by this time, you will be struck down by the next bolt of lightning. Come on, this is a serious matter. The Catholic Church actually approved the visions as worthy of belief and granted them genuine bona fide miracle status 11 years before revealing one of the big 3 secrets with its anti-Russian warning. Are they really expecting us to believe the Virgin Mary visited 3 young peasant children in Portugal in 1917 to warn the world about something as specific and politically biased as the threat from Russia 25 years later? For reasons best known to themselves, Vatican officials refused to release the 3rd secret until the late 1990s, when Pope John Paul II finally unveiled Sister Lucia's somewhat disjointed account. After the 2 parts that I have already explained, at the left of Our Lady and a little above we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire, but they died out in contact with the splendour that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand. Pointing to the earth with his right hand, the angel cried out in a loud voice, "Penance! Penance! Penance!" And we saw in an immense light that is God. something similar to how people appear in a mirror when they pass in front of it. A bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father. Other bishops, priests, men and women religious going up a steep mountain, at the top of which there was a big cross made from a cork tree. Reaching there, the Holy Father passed through a big city half in ruins. He was half trembling with a halting step, afflicted with pain and sorrow. He prayed for the souls of the corpses he met along his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees at the foot of the big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him. And in the same way there died one after the other the bishops, the priests, the men and women religious, and various lay people of different ranks and positions. Beneath the two arms of the cross there were two angels, each holding a chalice in which they had gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. It is said that Pope John Paul II believed that the text refers to the attempt on his life in St. Peter's Square in 1981, while others suggest it is a prediction of the end of the world, although I, to be honest, can neither make head nor tail of any of it. In March 1948, Sister Lucia joined the Carmel of St. Teresa, where she remained until her death on the 13th of February 2005. She passed away shortly before her 98th birthday. During her lifetime she wrote 6 memoirs and 2 books. The day of her funeral, 15th of February, was declared a national day of mourning, even disrupting political campaigning for the Portuguese parliamentary elections a few days later. Before she died, Sister Lucia claimed to have seen her pretty lady from heaven many times throughout her lifetime, although nobody else has ever witnessed or corroborated her claims. I wish I could. In fact, I only wish the Blessed Virgin would appear around here sometimes. We could do with a few heavenly visitations to liven things up. The events in Fatima during 1917 have never been fully explained and remain as mysterious today as they did in the beginning. Nobody knows what happened, although everybody agrees that something did. I find it hard to completely rule out the appearance of some sort of vision or natural phenomenon occurring near Fatima on those 4 separate occasions, because that would have to suggest that around 100,000 people were either mentally ill, deluded, or lying. The sightings were, however, made in the middle of the Great War when things looked particularly gloomy. Perhaps people so badly needed evidence of something spiritual, some proof of divine interest in them, that they were able to convince themselves that they had witnessed something rather more impressive than they actually had. After all, there had recently been the famous incident of the Angel of Mons, the supposedly supernatural force of ghostly warriors that intervened to help protect British forces at a crucial moment during the Battle of Mons. That is now commonly considered to be a mixture of morale-boosting propaganda and hallucination on the part of sleep-deprived soldiers. And we have seen how it is possible to create an illusion on a huge scale, as evidenced by the way in which magician David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty appear to vanish before the eyes of millions of people, and yet we know it didn't really go anywhere. So that leaves us with one final question. Even without the assistance of magic, is such a mass deception otherwise possible, convincing a vast group of people to believe in the same lie at roughly the same time? Anybody would have to hesitate before saying yes. And of course there were Catholics who will believe anything. So to quote Abraham Lincoln, it's perfectly feasible to fool all of the people some of the time.